True. Nervous. Very, very dreadfully nervous I had been and am. But why will you say that I am mad? The obsession had sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth, and many things in hell. How then am I mad? Hearken, and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. It was, in the first place, a house of shadows. Our ancient manor, perched on the crumbling cliffs like a raven's nest, where the wind howled eternal dirges through the eaves, and the fog rolled in from the sea, like the breath of drowned souls. I had lived there alone these many years, since the fever took my dear Eliza, leaving me to wander its labyrinthine halls with only the echo of my footsteps for company. But it was not the house that birthed the horror. No, it was the shadow. My own shadow. Oh God, how it tormented me. It was no mere absence of light, no harmless silhouette born of sun or candle. This was a living malice, a dark twin that slithered and contorted across the warped floorboards, its edges frayed like the hem of a shroud, ever reaching, ever grasping. From the very dawn of my affliction, it began with whispers. Not voices, mind you, but a subtle susurrus, like the rustling of autumn leaves trapped in a crypt, or the faint scrape of fingers on coffin wood. Every evening, as the sun bled crimson through the grimy panes of the eastern window, it would manifest. First, a tentative tendril across the threshold, then bolder, pooling like ink spilled from some infernal well. It mimicked my every move, yet with a mockery all its own, stretching longer when I shrank back, curling like a question mark when my thoughts turned inward to those buried guilts of youth. Ah, those guilts. Do you fancy I exaggerate? In my boyhood, I had played wicked games, binding the neighborhood cats in sacks and tossing them into the river, laughing at their muffled yowls as the waters claimed them. And later, as a man, the sharper sins. The forged will that left my cousin penniless, the lover's quarrel that ended in a shove down the stairs. These were shadows. For a full month I endured it, pacing the nights away in a frenzy of vigilance. My heart, that treacherous organ, throbbed with the rhythm of accusation. Thump, thump, echoing the pulse I imagined in its depths. I tried remedies, you see. I was no fool. Candles by the dozen I lit, flooding the rooms with golden fire until the very air grew thick and choking. Yet the shadow persisted, dodging the flames like a wraith, growing denser in the corners where light feared to tread. I boarded the windows, plunging the house into perpetual twilight. But then it came from within, from the hearth's dying embers, from the slits beneath the doors. Once, in desperation, I scorched the floorboards with a branding iron, tracing sigils of protection from forgotten tomes, but the burns only gave it new paths to wander, like veins in marble. Ha! Would that I could make you feel the intensity of that obsession. By the seventh night, my nerves were strings plucked taut by invisible hands. Sleep? A jest. I sat in the grand parlor, the one with the gilt-framed mirror that hung like a sentinel above the mantel, that cursed mirror, the cradle of the beast. For it was there the shadow first took root, reflecting not just my form, but amplifying it, twisting my pallid face into leers I had never worn, my eyes into pits of endless night. I watched it for hours that eve, the clock's pendulum swinging like a scythe. Tick, tock, tick, each second birthing a new tendril. It crept toward the rug, silent as sin, and I swear, in the hush, I heard it breathe, a shallow rasp, like wind through a keyhole, carrying the scent of damp earth and regret. The eighth night, oh, the eighth, was the apex of my torment, the night when reason, that fragile veil, tore asunder. The moon hung low, a sickle of silver slicing the clouds, and the manor creaked under the weight of impending doom. I armed myself with the heavy silver candlestick from Eliza's vanity, its waxen taper unlit, a cold club in my sweating grip. Midnight tolled from the distant village bell, 12 brazen strokes that vibrated in my bones. The shadow, emboldened, stretched across the entire room now, a vast ink blot swallowing the furniture in its maw. It paused at my chair, inches from my boots, and in that moment, I saw it pulse. Yes, pulse, as if with a heart stolen from my own breast.
No more!
With a cry that rent the silence, a howl born of all the suppressed furies of my life, I leaped to my feet. The candlestick whistled through the air, a comet of vengeance, and crashed upon the mirror with the force of thunder. Shards erupted like a fountain of frozen screams, glittering daggers embedding in the walls, the floor, my very flesh. But I felt no pain, only ecstasy. For there, amid the wreckage, the shadow convulsed. It writhed upon the fragments, a black oil spilling and reforming, and from its core issued a sound, a keen wail, high and piercing, like the lament of 1,000 silenced victims. It clawed at the air, fingers of darkness scraping the wood, before dissolving into wisps that fled to the shadows of the chandelier above. I laughed then. Oh, how I laughed. A triumphant cackle that echoed through the halls, proclaiming my victory over the abyss. I swept the remnants into a heap, the glass crunching underfoot like brittle bones, and buried them in the garden under the gibbous moon, stamping the earth flat with the heel of my boot. Peace at last, I thought. The house sighed in relief, the wind falling silent as if in awe. But hark, villains, you mock my triumph. Dissemble no more. For now, in the cold light of dawn, this very dawn, as I sit here confessing to you, the whispers return, insidious and unrelenting. They seep from the cracks in the plaster, slither along the baseboards like serpents reborn. That shadow's ghost pursues me, hissing my name. Eliza! Cousin! The cats! Through every crevice. The manor, once still, now throbs with accusation. Do you not hear it? That low, insistent murmur, growing to a roar in my ears. It builds, layer upon layer, until it drowns the world. And beneath it all, God, beneath it all, the beating of its hideous heart, thump, 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 rising from the buried shards, demanding justice. Tear up the floor, pluck up the garden soil. Here, here. It is the shadow's revenge, and it will not rest until it claims me wholly.